What is going on, guys? We are finally back. It took us a little bit of time, but we're back from a little bit of a hiatus. Life sometimes gets in the way, and we kind of just got a little off track, but we are back now. We have about 4 weeks to go before the regular season starts on September 8th. We got the Fantasy Football Expo coming up this weekend, which I will be attending, and Jay will not because he hates fun and has to work and stuff of that nature. But look, football season, it is finally here. In the 3 weeks that we have been gone, football season has arrived. The Hall of Fame game was last week. The Raiders pummeled the Jaguars 27-11. Josh Jacobs was pumped up, dropped down, and left off a lot of people's top 30 rankings in the process, as he is now a prime trade candidate. And look, football is back in the main swing of things, and we are ready. So how are you doing tonight, my fellow companion?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. We have a mock draft. We have a, draft room waiting to get this thing started. We're officially kind of, entering redraft season, entering football season ultimately. So, no more weeks without football. It's a good time to be alive. Good time to, get this draft going. I'm excited to see how it's going to go.
Yeah. And look, mocks are the pinnacle of the community. Well, at least they used to be. Underdog Fantasy has come along and made mocks very, I don't know if they're obsolete now, but people definitely do like the mock draft for money. When something's, they got something on the line, it makes things a lot more interesting. Speaking of Underdog, if you go to Underdog and you deposit at least $10 and use code HFF, you will get a 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit to the site. So make sure you go and do that. You can find either me or our resident best ballaholic, Jay, in those streets. As I have been taking a slight break to let my bank account cool down, Jay has gone full throttle and has done probably around 150 drafts at this point. So if you go in there, you'll find him. You probably won't find me at this point because, yeah, I'm just not that crazy as Jay at this point. But we do have a show plan for you guys tonight. We have a one quarterback redraft mock. Pretty standard stuff. One quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, one tight end, one flex, and 6 bench spots. So 14 rounds. Picks will be on a 30-second clock. I'm going to share my screen. We got some of your favorite Twitter fantasy analysts and fans in there. And I think we're ready to get this thing started. So I'm going to go and share my screen real quick.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's active in the draft room too. So
yep. And I am going to go right ahead and get things started. We have our good friend Jake Parry at the 101, and let's get this thing going.
Nice. The 30-second clock is so nice.
Yeah, the 30-second clock is nice. I did a mock yesterday for a site that I will not say anything about yet, but that took about an hour to do 16 rounds. So that was really nice. Everything gets done so quickly, and you get that you get satisfied very quickly there. So I went with Justin Jefferson at the 102. Yes, I skipped Jonathan Taylor. No, you cannot hate me for it. It is pretty proven that running backs don't repeat as the 101. So I'm okay taking the guy who I have as my wide receiver 1 in Justin Jefferson over Jonathan Taylor. And I don't care what anybody thinks of me about it.
So the first 5 picks, and I just rounded it out at 5. We had Christian McCaffrey go first, Justin Jefferson 2 to Sam, Jonathan Taylor 3rd, and Cooper Kupp 4th, and I took Jamar Chase at 5. I was, thinking between Jamar Chase and Dalvin Cook, honestly. Decided to go receiver to start because I like some of the running backs in the second round. So we'll see which ones are still there for my next pick. Deandre Swift going at 107 and Austin Eckler at 106. So 108's on the clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, I'm a big Chase guy. I think it's sorry, I'll turn the audio off. I'm a big Jamar Chase guy this year. I've come to actually put him in my wide receiver 2 spot ahead of Kupp. just because the floor seems so high and the upside is literally wide receiver one, like on a Cooper Kupp like trajectory from last year. Like he's just that good, and the offense is that good. The upside is just sky high. He can really just go up from there. Like you can argue that he had a kind of down period in the middle of the season for about 5 weeks where he didn't score over 12 fantasy points. And I can just see him going right for it. I really do think his upside is just so high.
Yeah, I'm happy with any of those three with Jefferson, Kupp, or Chase to start the draft. And like I said, I was between him and Dalvin Cook, but I'm hoping some of these running backs are going to come back to me in the second round. And we stopped at 107 where Deandre Swift went. 108 was Dalvin Cook. 109 Derrick Henry. The 10th pick Stephon Diggs. Travis Kelce at 111, and then at the turn Najee Harris and Joe Mixon. CeeDee Lamb at 202 and 203 is on the clock.
Let's see here. All right, so 203 took Mr. Aaron Jones himself. Nick Chubb went at 204 to the auto drafting George Reed. 205 Devontae Adams, and 206 Saquon Barkley. Saquon's interesting. Where do you think Saquon's range of outcomes come this year?
I was really hoping I was going to get Saquon here in the second round. But I don't think there's really – I mean, I think after like 108, 109, I think is like, anytime after that taking Saquon I think is perfectly fine. I think there's a argument to be made for him going ahead of a lot of these running backs that are going ahead of him in ADP right now. I'm on the clock at 208. I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to take Alvin Kamara.
I like Kamara.
I don't think he's going to get suspended. And, this late, it seems like it just keeps getting pushed back. It's at the 208. I still have plenty of time to find some insurance in case he does miss some games, but it's just such a value at that point.
Yeah, our Drew Davenport over at Football Guys is extremely confident that Kamara's suspension possible will get pushed back until at least 2023. Just because, without the video and the trial date keeps getting pushed back, I just don't see anything happening with him. And even if he does get suspended this year, it'll be something very paltry, like 2 or 3 games. And that's just not enough for me to knock Kamara down my rankings.
And you're on the clock right now.
I am.
And so, go ahead.
I am going to take AJ Brown.
Beautiful.
And, obviously I don't need to, start my infatuation with AJ Brown. Obviously the Eagles are going to pass more. I have them projected for about 550 passing attempts this year. That's more than enough for all 3 of AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert to eat. But I don't even think AJ Brown needs that many. And somehow there's a 3-round reversal in here that I did not realize was on. I'm not sure when that happened, but I guess we're rolling with that. Anyways, good for Optimus Hine there at the 112, who must have seen that one coming because I sure didn't.
I wonder if.
Anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyways, that Eagles offense has the potential to do something special this season. So.
And Tyreek Hill goes at the 304. So let's see. We had a run of receivers with from the 209 to the end of the second round: Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans, AJ Brown, T. Higgins. And after that, we got Kyle Pitts being the 3rd tight end off the board after Kelsey Andrews, Pitts, and Leonard Fournette and Javonte Williams. I feel like, maybe people are a little spooked with the 3rd round reversal, but never mind. He says he saw it on purpose, so here we go. Michael Pittman going next, and I'm on the clock at this next pick at 308.
Well, in any ways.
And Ezekiel Elliott at the 3-7.
I'm trying to figure out where to rank Zeke this year. Right now on Football Guys, I have him ranked as my RB16. I think that's a really good spot for him, but I could see him being an RB1 again. Like, that would not at all shock me. I mean, he's in the last year of that god-awful contract. Jerry cares more about looking like he's right than winning. Like, I could easily see Zeke putting up another top 12 season just because of volume. Tony Pollard be damned. Let it be known that I'm not a Tony Pollard fan. I just don't think he's that great. I do still think Zeke has some juice in him. I mean, he pretty much put up a RB1 season on the torn PCL last year. So, let's see here. Still got some good players in there. We still have not seen a quarterback go off the board yet, but Cortland Sutton did just go off the board. What's your take on the wide receiver situation in Denver with Tim Patrick now out for the season with the torn ACL?
I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily think it changes that much for Cortland Sutton. I think Cortland Sutton going where he was already being drafted makes sense. I think should be drafted kind of as, high wide receiver too, with range of outcomes being, super high. He could be a, top 7, top 8 guy, if that offense really hits. I like where Jerry Jeudy's going too. I don't know that it necessarily changes much for either of them. I feel a little bit more comfortable taking Jerry Jeudy, to be honest, because I just feel like it's one less, person there to compete for targets. And I think there was going to be times that it would be Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick on the field, and Jerry Jeudy could be the odd man out in those situations. But now I think it's an upgrade for Jerry Jeudy. I don't know necessarily that it moves much for Cortland Sutton for me. And interesting for KJ Hamler, if he's able to go at full speed.
Yeah, I want to curse Jake Parry's life out of existence right now for taking Breece Hall when I did not take him on, and that was not nice, Jake. That was not nice. So, but I took Cam Akers at the 402 and Mike Williams at the 311. Look, I've been very vocal about how high I am on Mike Williams this year and the Chargers offense as a whole. I do believe both he and Keenan Allen should be looked at as top 15 options equally. I think Keenan has a higher floor, and that's why I have him ranked higher. I have Keenan ranked wide receiver 7, and I have Mike Williams ranked wide receiver 12. So, both of those guys are extremely solid, and that Chargers offense should be borderline elite for fantasy. I think everybody eats in that office. Herbert eats, Eckler eats, Isaiah Spiller eats. You can even think of a scenario where Josh Palmer eats as well. So all those guys there are going to be great. Cam Akers just makes sense. The reports are that he's been good in camp so far. You do have to worry about what Sean McVay wants to do with his offense. He has relied on a pretty workhorse running back room in the past, but he does say he likes Darrell Henderson a lot. But I do think Akers still sees the lion's share of the carries, and I do think he gets worked in the receiving game enough. And this is pretty much one of the earliest spots that I'm good to look at Akers, and he's ranked right after Breece for me. So
yeah, I like Akers there. Honestly, I mean, I like Akers more than any of the other running backs that are on the board. So I think it was good value to get him. And I agree. I mean, Sean McVay's talking about, the 2 running back thing, and, it's just coach speak kind of. We're kind of trying to read through the words of what he's saying, and he has 2 guys and all of that. But I think Cam Akers is the better guy. I think that a lot of us feel that way. And Darrell Henderson's good, but, I don't necessarily think that they can't both be somewhat productive. And I think Cam Akers is just going to be the guy who's getting a little bit more work, is more talented. So I think Darrell Henderson could still have a role, but in the Rams offense, they should both be able to have a role and be productive. So I'm taking Cam Akers where you took him, and I think it's perfectly fine.
Yep, totally get that. And then we have some other picks as well. Josh Allen finally went at the 409 to George Reed, who is still on auto pick out there. Lamar Jackson is the 501 and the QB2. What do you think about that? I know you're a big Lamar fan, but is 501 a little bit too early for him or no?
I haven't been taking Lamar as early as there because I'm on the clock right now. Just because I like some of these other quarterbacks that are still available that might drop off or that might still be available a little bit later. Let me look at this pick really quick.
You know what, Craig? The Chargers should be eating because they have to stay ready to compete, and they have to eat and stay hydrated. So I hope they're eating personally. I don't know why you wouldn't want them to eat and succeed and be full. They got to be well fed to be able to perform at that high athletic level. And then Jake said how you felt about me taking Brees is how I felt about you taking AJ Brown. Well, it's okay because I would have taken T. Higgins otherwise, but I like AJ Brown just a little bit more. Let's see here. Let's go into that pick. I'm on the clock, but Rashad Bateman, break him down.
Yeah, so I got Rashad Bateman at the 508. My team so far is 3 receivers, 1 running back. I started with Jamar Chase, Kamara, DJ Moore, Waddle, and Bateman, which I'm pretty happy with, to be honest. I feel like getting Bateman in the 5th felt really good. I would be drafting Bateman over some of these guys that went ahead of him, in the same tier as DK and Mooney and Hollywood, but I would be taking Bateman over those guys because, like you said, I am a big Lamar Jackson fan. We saw what Hollywood Brown did. Baltimore clearly, I think, with the moves that they made, instilled some confidence that they have in Rashad Bateman. You don't give up Marquise Brown if you're not confident in the next guy coming up, and also not really address the room in the way that Baltimore has. And we all think Rashad Bateman's good. He was a good prospect coming in. Hurt a little bit of last year, but looked good when he was playing. And I think they're, putting a lot of confidence in him. So if he can get, the same amount of targets, the same amount of work that Marquise Brown did or close to that, I mean, I'm pretty happy with him. And especially in the 5th round, I think that he's got a much higher ceiling than, where his ADP's at.
I like that. You are on the clock again, but meantime, I saw you laugh. I know it was because I took Jalen Hurts. For me, clear, easy pick there for me to take him at the QB4. I have him ranked QB3. I swap him back and forth with Lamar when I'm having a bad day. But look, Jalen Hurts has QB1 overall in his range of outcomes, and it's not like a lot has to happen for him to get there. He had the most QB1 weeks last year with 12 to start the year. And he finished QB9 at the end of the season. He obviously got the massive upgrade with AJ Brown. You add to the offensive line, you keep everything going, and it all adds up to pretty much a season where he should be inside the top 5, and he definitely has QB1 overall. He just needs to have some of those ceiling spike games. So with Hurts, you're betting on the talent around him to help propel him, and that he improves enough as a passer to get to that point. And then after that, taking Eli Mitchell at 602, all reports out of 49ers camp are that Eli Mitchell is the starter. He's the workhorse back. They may mix in, Tyrion Davis-Price and Jeff Wilson from time to time, but Mitchell's the guy, and Trey Lance may steal some carries. That definitely worries me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I'm still debating on really how to attack that. The 49ers offense has been something I'm kind of staying away from outside of Mitchell, just because the running game is always so efficient that it seems, that you always want to have whoever the 49ers starting running back is going to be. So Mitchell seems like a guy to really attack in that dead zone of running backs. And I kind of got him a little bit outside that dead zone since it's usually round 4 to 5, but 602 is a nice place for him to go, and he went as the RB19 in this. So let's take a look at some of the other picks while you look at the clock. Godwin went off at the 610, Drake London at the 611, Elijah Moore at the 612, Treylon Burks at 701, Alan Lazard at 702. A bunch of young guys there. I like that, that little turn there. That's a good spot to get those guys. And then you have some of the more grizzled veterans and Amari Cooper and Adam Thielen at 704 and 705, Gabe Davis at 706, Joe Burrow at 707, and you took Trey Lance at 708. So walk us through what you think about Trey Lance for this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Trey Lance. As you know, we've talked about it pretty frequently. I've been excited for Trey Lance, and I think that, everybody making the comparison, it's not, new, but what we saw Jalen Hurts do last year and the floor that Jalen Hurts had, being able to have the rushing ability that he has. And, the only thing that anybody seems to doubt about Trey Lance is, his ability as a passer. Is he accurate? Those sort of things. And aren't those similar things that we doubt about Jalen Hurts? And we both love Jalen, we're both Eagles fans. We're both Jalen Hurts fans. He needs to improve, as a passer. I think we can all agree on that. Trey Lance does too, but as a fantasy quarterback with his rushing ability, I saw some report today from the 32 beat writers account. Trey Lance broke off for a 65-yard rushing touchdown. And, there's only a few guys in the league that can do that sort of thing. And, Trey Lance is one of them, and he's in a good system. And even comparing him to a Jalen Hurts and what Jalen Hurts had last year, Trey Lance is a lot better situation than Jalen Hurts did last year, in terms of talent around him. So I think he steps into a situation with the floor being pretty safe and the ceiling being extremely high, based on what he can do and based on the surrounding cast.
I'm really trying to get into the 49ers passing offense. I'm just so apprehensive of, how Trey Lance looks as a passer during games. I've come around to taking him. I can't come around to taking the pass casters just yet, just because you don't know how it's going to shake out. Debo is very reliant on efficiency, and all Jimmy Garoppolo liked to do at last year was throw those quick slants to Debo and let him absolutely take off and work the field, for those yards after the catch. That's what Debo did. Ayuk was in the doghouse half the year and looked pretty good for the rest of it. And then Kittle is just, 65% of the time he's blocking. So, how can you trust Kittle, in a season-long format when he's blocking over 60% of the time? And it just doesn't add up to something that I'm comfortable with in their passing game. But look, one of my favorite guys on Twitter, Josh Larkey, basically said, well, not basically, this is literally what he said. If your favorite fantasy analyst has Trey Lance outside of their top 8 fantasy rankings, you need to find a new fantasy analyst. And I'm slowly coming around to that point of view, just because, we did it last year with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And it's a little hypocritical. It's a little hypocritical if you were in on Jalen Hurts last year, like I was, and you're out on Trey Lance this year, like I have been. And I see that. You're looking at two guys who are both considered to not be accurate. But in the case of Trey Lance, has a cannon for an arm where Jalen Hurts does not, and both could use their legs extremely, extremely frequently. So you definitely have to weigh that into perspective, and look at the offense. The offense is a massively efficient offense. So I've come around to it.
Yeah, whose team I really like right now in this draft, and I might be coming up on the clock. Aside from yours, this I don't know how I would pronounce it, but Yturfe, Yturfe, started off with Deandre Swift and Saquon Barkley from the 107, which is an awesome start. That's that's awesome. Then he just stacked wide receivers. Michael Pittman, Allen Robinson, Amon-Ra, Hopkins, Gabriel Davis, Kadarius Toney, Christian Kirk. I mean, he's got a loaded receiver group, guys with a ton of upside. DeAndre Hopkins, going to be suspended the first 6 games. This guy's got 6 other wide receivers that I wouldn't mind playing on a week-to-week basis. So I really like how his teams come together.
Yeah, I do. I was looking at that as well. I do like that. And he, again, one quarterback mock. You're not missing much if you don't have a QB at this point. And again, there's still some tight ends on the board as well. So I like what he's done. Craig asked where are the defensive players to draft. You know what? I think we found our next redraft mock idea for the next show, Jay. We're gonna add it. We can add in an IDP twist with a couple IDP guys to satisfy Craig, since he's one of the only people I know that actually likes to see IDP players and doesn't just tolerate them. So for me, and I'm almost on auto pick down here, I will go rush and take. Okay. Damn it. I didn't see him. Okay. I didn't see Damien Pierce down there, and I was going to take Damien
Soft
Pierce,
brand,
but I
Sam.
took
Your whole brand just went down the drain with that pick.
no. My brand is intact. My brand is intact. I'm a Spiller fan. I'm a Spiller fan, and if Jake's not listening,
You might
then
grab
he
him right
will.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I did that in the Scott Fish Bowl, actually. I did the opposite way, but I did Damien Pierce and Isaiah Spiller, so I'm rooting for both of them as well.
Yep.
Oh, there you
And
go.
he didn't, so I will go and take Damien Pierce.
Brand
Look,
back intact.
yeah, brand is intact. I'm loving my draft so far, but I don't have to say too much about these two picks. I've said a lot on previous shows what I think of these two rookie running backs. They were two. Spiller was not someone I was high on coming in, but I absolutely loved the spot where he landed with the Chargers. Obviously, Austin Eckler has been looking for someone to take some of the load off him. Josh Kelly and Larry Roundtree are not it. Spiller can be it. And then as far as Pierce, all the reports out of Texans training camp right now are that Pierce looks like by far the most explosive back there, and he should gain the handle on the lead job going into the season. So, Damien Pierce, one of my favorite guys in this draft class. The Texans spot, I loved it for fantasy, and I think it's going to pay off here. And I'm having, quietly a pretty solid draft for myself, I think. You took Cordarrelle Patterson, and you're a lot higher on Cordarrelle Patterson than I am, but break down why you think Cordarrelle Patterson can repeat his production from last season.
I don't know that he can repeat his production from last season, but I was looking at the running backs here. I think that he was one of the more appealing options for me. There's a couple guys with a little bit lower ADP that I think I can grab. I looked at the receivers, I have a pretty strong receiver group thus far. I went receiver early with 4 of the first 5 picks. So I think I can still fill in some receivers later. I just think Cordarrelle Patterson's got upside. I don't know if he can do exactly what he did last year, but we saw him do it, and they didn't do that much to change the situation. They don't have that much around him. I kind of like Tyler Algier. I have him in a couple dynasty leagues. I would like to see that happen, but I don't know that, he necessarily – having a good role in the offense this year stops Cordarrelle Patterson from being involved. He's such a, Swiss Army knife that they can involve him in so many different ways. And they still don't really have that much target competition for him. So I'm willing to take the risk here. He's my RB4. I went wide receiver early, like I said, but coming out with Alvin Kamara, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chase Edmonds, and Cordarrelle Patterson. And Clyde's another one for me. I like Isaiah Pacheco. I hope that he works out as well. But right now, I think Clyde's a great value just to kind of take that risk if you have, other parts of your team that you think are strong. So I am on the clock right now, and let's see.
Yeah. And we'll break down some of these last picks as well. After you, Nyheim Hines went off the board at 10:06. Tyler Algier at the 10:07. George Pickens, one of my favorite rookies, at the 10:08. Tom Brady 10:09. Michael Gallup 10:10. Kenny Gainwell 10:11. Gainwell is a massive breakout waiting to happen this year. Jarvis Landry at the 10:12. Irv Smith at 11:01. Jalen Tolbert 11:02. Russell Gage 11:03. Dawson Knox 11:04. Rondale Moore 11:05. Michael Carter, 11:06, and Jacoby Myers, 11:07. I mean, there's some nice picks that are available in this 9, 10, 11 range, and that's not something we've seen in some of the recent years, but I do think that there are a little bit more of depth to this wide receiver group than we've seen in some of the past years. Guys like Gage have sprouted up. We have a lot of deeper rookies who are going to play some pretty solid roles early on in the season due to injuries. Some older guys coming back from injuries, guys like Devontae Parker and DJ Chark and Julio Jones that will see roles that they might not have seen last year, due to performance or injury. There's a lot of interesting names in this 9 to 12 range. And as I look,
it's been a huge receiver run right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's been 7 receivers in a row. We'll see if you keep the trend going, and you don't. You take Darrell Henderson, I don't even know if I want to call him a handcuff, but the other Los Angeles running back, to pair with Cam Akers. So
Yeah, and I don't view Darrell Henderson as a handcuff. I think what the trend that I see in the NFL that's going to come along and has been coming along for a little while is that teams will run two running backs out there at the same time. They'll run one at the slot and they'll run one in the backfield. And it's completely fine because there's enough offense to go around that both can maintain an actual role. So I view Henderson as a guy who can play alongside Akers. And honestly, you have the recovered Achilles for Akers is in my back of my head. And Henderson is there because I know he can get the bell cow role if Akers goes down. But I love both of them and can play them side by side in some weeks. Kyle Logan asked why people are so low on Penny. In my opinion, people are so low on Penny because he has no record of health, staying, longer than a few weeks. That 6-game run last year was pretty much out of the norm from what we've seen from Penny over the last 4.5 years. And people don't think he'll do it again. Them drafting Kenneth Walker is more about insurance for Penny than anything, given the fact that he's been injured every single season so far. They have to have some insurance since it's the last year of his contract. But what do you think about Rashad Penny?
Well, I disagree. I think Rashad Penny's good. I don't, doubt that, everyone's saying, what we saw at the end of last season. It was great. He looked really good. Now that he's healthy, it was great to see. And clearly he, performed at a high level. But then they went and drafted Kenneth Walker in the second round. And I think Kenneth Walker is also a very good running back. And I think that he's able to do a lot of the things that Rashad Penny can do. We don't really, we haven't seen a lot of Rashad Penny, like you referenced. So I'm interested to see how they're going to split it up, but I do think it's going to be pretty fairly split between the two. And they're not going to be a great offense, so not that high on either of them. But I almost feel more comfortable taking Kenneth Walker than Rashad Penny. I just kind of feel like by the end of the year, Kenneth Walker is going to have a bigger role. And I know you disagree with me, but I think Kenneth Walker is just a better player than Rashad Penny. Both good. I don't know. They just picked him in the second round.
Yeah, and look, Twitter went nuts when there was a video of Kenneth Walker catching a routine ball for a touchdown at training camp last week. People were saying, "Oh my God, he can catch." Well, we know he can catch, but he just didn't do it at Michigan State. And honestly, the Seahawks don't throw to their running backs either. And I just see this being more of a timeshare, but one that Penny sees the bigger share of carries in. And the reason I think that is because they wouldn't have re-signed him if there wasn't a plan. I think their plan all along was to take another running back in the draft and prepare for life after Penny. I do think that Penny is absolutely gone from Seattle after this season. And I think that, they want Kenneth Walker to be their future, but Penny is their current and their present. And I think that Penny will get basically ran into the ground this season. And I just don't know if Walker sees enough work to really be relevant this year. I do think Walker is a pure bet for the future for the Seahawks. They are absolutely not going to compete at all. Not for the division, not for a wild card spot, nothing. They are a prime candidate to go 3-14 this year. So why would they take their running back who they just drafted in the second round and potentially expose him to injury? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And they re-signed Penny for a significant amount of money for a running back. $6 million is significant when you look at it. And I do think that Penny does get a healthy amount of carries. And I think he gets targets as well because his receiving target share, even though it's low, was better than Walker's, who was significantly low. So,
well, they went close to each other. They went 3 picks apart. So,
I just think
oh, did you freeze? All right, we got Marvin Jones at the 14-1 to start the 14th round, and Hunter Henry at the 2. Coach Bruce here in the chat saying I've sniped him 4 times. Oh man. Let's see, he has a chance to snipe me back here at the 14-04. And Dante Foreman just went the pick before. So I'm now on the clock. Gerald Everett, okay. Didn't necessarily snipe, but